and he's going to talk about our partnership with Kemin and a little bit on how we got involved with them and what they do for us. So next up is Michael Eggleston.
Right. Thanks, everybody. You know, one thing I can never plan for is the weather up here. I'm from Texas, so I am freezing, so forget my jacket. First, I'd like to start off by saying I appreciate DAC for having me here at PHN. It's been a terrific partnership, and I'm always blessed to be involved in anything we're working on. A little bit about me. I always like to start with a story about me because that's the topic I know about best. So we'll get into it. So before I started doing nutrition, turn that down just a little bit. All right, sorry, I was hearing more myself. So before I got into nutrition, I was a farrier, and I thought I was a really good farrier. And I had a customer that brought a horse to a vet clinic. I say customer, they weren't my customer at the time. They brought a horse to the vet clinic, brought the critical detail, and it was a show horse, and it was having a lot of problems. And you know, we shot a bunch of x-rays, we did slow motion cameras on this horse, and you were trying to figure out how can we get this horse to be better. And as the veterinarian and I were working together on this horse. So, you know, after we assess everything, we make a recommendation on what to do, and we move forward with execution of that project. And we thought we fixed that problem. But we forgot one critical step, and that was interfacing more with the horse. We thought we're the experts. I'm the professional farrier. He's the veterinarian. We fixed it. Scientifically, we sure did. But we weren't involving ourselves enough with that horse owner and what her perception was of how that horse was doing. So it was a net failure for us. And I went round and round with this horse. I would see it probably every 4 months. She would take it back home, her farrier would work on it, and it would come right back to the vet clinic, and I'd get to start all over again. And it wasn't until I realized that I completely failed at remembering that the #1 player on that team was the horse owner. That we had to align on what she deemed a success for that horse. Once we all got aligned, once my interns were working properly, the veterinarian and I were communicating effectively, but we were all listening to that horse owner. Once that happened, she went on and she won a national title. And that was her definition of success, because it was her confidence that was being affected. We weren't listening to her, and therefore she wasn't confident when she got on that horse. So this is a little story I like to tell about it. And I was reminded of that last night when we're at DAC and we're doing the open house, and you know, I'm walking around and I get to meet and greet with you all folks, and I look over at Andy and he's in the back of the rehab tank. There you are. He's over by the fat tanks and he's talking to the customer. He is asking 1,000,001 questions. What's your horse doing? Man, that's a team player right there, right? Because although he could be somewhere else eating a hamburger or talking to RJ, he was back there talking to that customer and asking the right questions. Tell me about your horse. So this presentation we're going to jump into ties in very well with what Mr. Kalmach just talked about, because it's about value. It's about a partnership, but it's about looking beyond the partnership and looking at how are we all a team? How is me, you know, representing a company from Iowa all the way from Texas, or Ashley, you know, my co-worker, how are we part of your team? So we'll get into it. This thing work. Sorry, technology is not my friend. So a little outline. First, we're going to talk about what is innovation. I hate the term innovation because I immediately, and it's my fault, think about technology. And as I just proved, I'm not good at it. Then we'll talk about who is Kemin and how do we serve you. So not so much about what does Kemin do too much, just how do we work with you and the horses that you're serving and your customers as individuals. Then we're going to talk about teamwork. How can we use teamwork to solve problems? And most importantly, how do we define team, right? And then lastly, how does DAC, PHN, and Kemin work together on this problem? There we go. Sorry, my screen went blank on me. So, innovation. As mentioned, anytime I think of innovation, I think of technology. Is it still up there? Okay. I think of technology, and I'm a little apprehensive on technology, to be honest, because I'm not that great at it. But what I like is saying no signal. Sorry, folks. All right. What I do like is the synonyms that come with that. What are some words that reflect what innovation can do for us? Right? Change, transform, revolutionize. Those can be scary, because change to me can be a bit scary. But when I think about what we're trying to accomplish is to change the lives of these horses and to inspire, to transform the way that those horse owners react when we have a product for them, or when we provide that product and it fixes the problem that they have. So I like to change, how I think of innovation in terms of technology, and think about how do I innovate the relationship that I have, or the way that I go about looking to solve the problem, to find a solution. So, this is a snapshot. Let's rethink how we talk about innovation. So, who is Kemin? Just real quick, because again, I don't like to talk too much about this, as it doesn't really affect what we're trying to learn today. But Kemin is a family-owned company. This lovely couple right here, they're the founders. They founded Kemin in 1961. The most important thing to know here is they're a family company, no different than your family-owned companies, like DAC, like PHN. We all have a common goal, and that is to show up, to work as a team, to serve the end user, the producer. If we can improve the life of that producer via their animals, then we're going to change their families' lives, we're going to help improve the community around them, and then we're going to help leave a lasting legacy that they can be proud of. So, problem solving, that takes a team. And as Mr. Tomlin talked about, we all have to work together, we have to have that partnership, but we have to think a bit beyond that. How can we all align as a team? Now, the number one thing that a team knows, if we think about sports, is in order to win, you got to score. Well, fortunately, in sports, whether you're kicking a field goal or hitting a home run, all of those things are pretty much the same, right? It's very, very tangible. Well, working with dealers or working with horse owners, we all have to reimagine what do we consider success? How do we win? How do we score that goal? So all of us have to align on what you specifically need. Meaning, let's not think about just nutrition big picture. Let's think about nutrition as it relates to your customer in that very moment and what they're dealing with their horse. We have to look at it a bit more singularly. And that's our goal. So our partnership with PHN and DAC allows us to do that. Let's get more immersed. Let's listen to what you need, because that is how we're going to score and be successful. So one thing that we like to do is we have an exercise that we do at all of our company meetings. So everybody comes in from, let's say, North America. We'll have folks from Canada, US, and Mexico. We all get together for our company meeting, and our R&D team says, you know what, we get to talk inside of the factory. We're a bunch of egghead scientists. Maybe we're a bit removed from the field. So let's ask everybody that's in the field to provide their feedback. Let's be a team. Let's work together to solve problems that you actually deal with. So if we're re-envisioning how we're thinking about this, it's what I'm asking of you. Let's look at your customer's horse in that moment. So there's little pieces of paper. There's blue, green, and yellow, right, Ashley? Where's Ashley? There, okay. Blue will be question number 1. So what we do at our meetings is the R&D team will say, tell us what you're dealing with, what your customers are dealing with. It's also a little exercise to make sure that we're actually having good conversations with the folks who work here. And write down some ideas, things that we need to be researching, things that are common problems that maybe are moving a little faster than we are. So I encourage you all to fill that out. Fill out that sheet based off that question. What are some things that we can be doing to help improve your customers? Because if I can improve the relationship or solutions that we're offering to your customers, I can improve the value that you have with them, the partnership or the team that you have with them, and then we can drive that opportunity forward, right? So, with that, I'm Dad.
dad jokes. So we'll take a minute or so to let you feel those out, and I'll give you a dad joke. Why are Brahmi horses good to have around? Anybody know? Come on, somebody's got to know. What's that? They have a lot of heart? I'm looking for a funnier answer. Again, I like cheesy dad jokes because they're worth a few bucks. Very funny. All right. Well, we'll call that good for right now. DAC is going to collect these, so make sure. We want you to know that you have a voice here. What do you see that's not being represented right now? How can we show up and serve you just 1% better every day? So how do we solve problems? Well, I like to take a bit of a different approach, and this took years for me to really come to grips with. And it's to get a little bit more involved in that team mindset, right? To listen a little bit better, and then it's not all on me. You know, pride tends to get in the way, and we think that we have to have all the answers. And one thing that I can attest to, especially after hearing Andy last night, it's not about me, it's about you, and it's about all of us showing up to serve you every day. So, I like to use this graphic of a horse because when we think digestive health, or GI health, gut health, however we want to term it before we get into more of the anatomical feature of it, we have to remember it's several components. And one of the fatal flaws that I hear from a lot of horse owners is if you say gut health, they think stomach. That's all it stops there. Just like teeth. You can't stop at eye. It's not one thing, it's all of them. So just like the GI tract, all of these things are interconnected and they all serve a common purpose. Health, nutrition, digestion, all that. Just like a team. So first, we have to identify a concern from the field. So rather than talking into the vacuum, we have to find that concern. Secondly, we have to address the whole horse because we don't want to treat a symptom, we want to fix the problem. And that means looking at the whole horse in its entirety. Then we want to create that solution. We use science and technology, all that great stuff, and we'll find the solution. But then we need to connect that solution with the end user. And that's like our relationship with DAC and PHN. They work systematically together to execute that solution back to you, back to your horse owner. So we're all aligning back to that end goal. How can we fix this problem that you're dealing with today? Not a generic issue, it's a very specific one that we're here to work on. By doing that and having that level of involvement with the customer, it makes them priority number one, and they feel that. And they want to come back, they want to do more work with you. So as Mr. Kalmbach was talking about, this is how we add value. We can add value back to you by doing the same thing, making sure that we're tackling those challenges that you specifically are dealing with today, not just we have technology to put it in something. So, innovation starts with the horse, and that's one important thing that we all need to consider. It doesn't start with a horse, the horse, it's their horse. If we can identify that challenge at your level, the dealer, by getting the feedback like these note cards, we're able to take that information and start to really distill it down. Okay, what could be causing that symptom, or that reaction, or that loss of performance of their horse? Then we can look around and say, you know, we're seeing this in some other horses too. Very similar. This allows us to all work together. Many hands make light work, right? And if I'm trying to be the only person that's solving the problem, I might miss a big part of that picture. But if Dr. Tanya's looking, if Andy's looking out for it, and RJ and Randy, and we have all of these folks that are coming together to assess what could be wrong, we can have a very big picture on what we can do to make it right. So we get the information from you. We move that from the horse owner. We start to distill everything down so we have a bigger picture that we're painting. Then we'll move that through PHN. They start to assess the science. What can be going on at a more of a cellular level or one specific anatomical component. And then we'll start to formulate a plan together. So they'll incorporate other partners in science. Kemin, we'll start to come together on figuring out, I think we can fix it through this. And then we'll start to make the concoction, right? And then we create the product and execute. The most important part of that, though, is constant alignment with the root cause, with the very first person that started this, and that's the horse owner. All right, question number 2. This will be your green card. You don't have to write what the answer to my horrible jokes are, but fill out is this the magic wand? Yep. Magic wand. Sorry, my notes are going. So, if you have a magic wand and can create any product that would serve your customers and your business, what would it be? So, joke number 2. How do you know, and I told this at the time, and she said, so I know it's good. How do you know if your pony has a sore throat? He's a little horse. Give you all a minute to fill out the note card and just stare. So, how do you start to work specifically with you and your problems? I like to use this chart. Now, don't look at all the logos here on the bottom right-hand side. Your upper right-hand side. This is how we start. Let's look at the symptoms. And then we can start to align the science. So I like to think of this as an example. This is a goal or a tool that we use to specifically work with you in connecting with your customer force. So if you look along the top, you'll see the symptom. So we start to put these things together. Is his feed intake off? We'll see days off feed on occasion, right? We don't want to jump to the conclusion something's going on. Maybe he just had a long night. But then if we start seeing allergies, like blue stool, maybe it's a mare that she's had a hard time getting rid. That's when we can start to compile symptoms and create a winning strategy to help them be successful again. So in this case, I like to use an example of diarrhea. Individually, loose manure, that just might be some little fluke incident, right? They could have just, again, had a bad day. But then I start to see that horse has hives. And then his behavior is a little bit off. Then I can start to paint a picture. Well, maybe he has something else going on. These are the types of questions you can ask those customers that, 1, provide that value. 2, it makes their problems feel valid. It makes them feel valid. You know the right question to ask, to dig a little deeper, and then it connects you with the right solutions. So not only have you shown them your compassion, you've showed them their importance, now you're going to show them the knowledge that you have, the value that you have. Most importantly, if you don't have that knowledge, or say it's outside your wheelhouse, you have a team of folks in here, like I mentioned, that can bring that knowledge to you. That's why they're part of your team. They're part of your stores team. It's not just we get product from DAC. No, we have somebody there with DAC that's here to solve her problem today. So, in that instance, say the diarrhea, loose stool, allergies, anxiety, you could use a product like DAC Rescue 8 Pace. So off the cuff, we have a solution, but you also have somebody that's going to follow through and make that solution work. Or another example, say you have a metabolic course, but you don't know it's a metabolic course. This is an easy one. So you can start to ask these fine-tuned, tailored questions and connect them directly with the product, but you can do it through this sequence that builds that partnership, that builds that team. So I always like to tell folks, when we talk about nutrition, we like to get hung up on one component, right? Like when we go back to this slide. Obviously, these are products that we work with PHN on. These products are found in DAC products, but they are not a cure-all. And we can't look at nutrition like where's one product that fixes everything. So I have a metabolic course. If I give a Butyl CEQ, that's going to fix everything under the sun. No. It's important to remember that's why we have lots of people that work on these projects. This team all comes together to bring innovative ideas, innovative solutions or science that they know, and we can start to concoct or formulate something that works synergistically with one another. So GI Pro 3, it might be a probiotic, but then there's going to be some other things, some prebiotics and postbiotics that also go into making a good digestive health product. So It is a sum of its parts. Nutrition is a sum of the technology that goes into it, the innovation that occurs around it. And a team is the same way. We can't look at our team as an individual. It's not one ingredient that's going to fix everything or make a great team. It's a collection of the individuals. It's all of us bringing our best assets to augment one another. A team is a sum of its parts as well. Okay. Question number 3. This is your last card, your yellow card. Right? All right. I'm trying to keep up with the colors I told y'all. So question number 3. Why do cowboys win horses? This is often. Because we're too vegetarian. It's all right. My daughter laughs at my jokes. Either that or she feels sorry. So, in summary, I just want to reiterate that we're all here for the same purpose, and that's to add that value to you, to DAC, to PHN, but at the end of the day, all of that distills down to your customer. How do we add value to your customer? How do we let them know that they are part of our team as well? So that'd be a challenge I would have for you all, is figure out new creative ways that you can involve your customers, those folks buying these supplements, these products. How do we align with them to where they know that they have an entire team behind them and the success of their individual horse? Thank you. Questions?
Q&A right now. So if Everett and Doug, would you guys grab a mic? We're going to pass mics around. If you guys have any questions thus far, Paul Kalmbach Jr., if you wouldn't mind maybe stepping up. And if you guys have any questions for these two fellas to start out on our partnership, maybe with Kalmbach or our partnership with Kemin. So there'll be some mics passed around. Raise your hands, and we want to be able to answer as many of those questions as possible. We're getting closer to lunch. I don't think we can eat lunch though unless we have at least a couple questions.
Or share one of your ideas. I always like to hear the feedback. Yeah, so I was actually reading this and thinking this is the worst year in like 30 years for tick-borne illness. So just across, it does on the human side, right? So yeah, that would be a really interesting thing to look at. You know, how can we offer that without it being a benefit product to horses? So I mean, that's where innovation comes from, questions like that. Thank you. That's a puzzle. Oh, okay. So the question was, in her area in Pennsylvania, there is a substantial amount of ticks. Obviously, deer is the main culprit because they're bringing them into our pasture. What do we do without shooting all the deer? Is there something nutritionally that we can potentially do that, like a block, right? You know, that's a really unique question because we start to run against that, the other side of that, the ethical. We always have to, you know, we want to keep medications out of equine feed. So what kind of biocidal type product might have a benefit?
So the question was to feed the horses something to prevent the ticks. Maybe consider garlic. Because we can get poke off garlic, feed the horses garlic, and that helps with ticks.
Does it? Very good. There you go.
We have tried that with garlic for probably the last 4 years, but it's every day. We're still spraying our road. We've been in winter right now. There's not snow on the ground. We're still spraying our road. So we have tried to grow garlic. It has helped. We have started adding more to our life service and back to our downline trade, which has helped. So one trick we have tried to work. It's not working.
One of the challenges with horses that we're all aware of is whatever we put in the product, they have to.
Well, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So much,
Good stuff.
peers, and stuff like that. There's some of those things on a smaller scale that you can do. And I don't do that all the time.
It's definitely something that we're seeing across the country. Different ticks are moving into different areas, I think at speeds they've happened for 30 years. And so the challenge is, do you put it in a supplement, do you put it in a fly spray, do you have it as a topical, do you try and put it in feed, and all those have different challenges. So it is a very difficult challenge, but there's a lot of work being done, I think, to try and fix it in humans too. Actually, the most interesting research that I've seen is a spray that's being created, a biologic that's safe for animals that you spray on the yard or in the pastures in the woods. And that's actually started to show U.S. Biologics has done some work on it. They put some patent up. There's some work being done in that, which is actually, I think, the most promising. But it's quite expensive right now. Any other questions right now?
On the Kalmbach end, how have you seen the pandemic affect feed sales and coming out of the pandemic? Is there a change or a shift from one product line to another? Are we going basic or are we going into more concentrated products?
RJ, do I have 30 more minutes? Oh, there you are. Man, that's a good question. I think I'll give you a couple of answers. The pandemic, I would say we've moved into a post-pandemic world, and so there's, in the pandemic, as we went into the pandemic, you had the first response, which was panic buying, right? And then you had a second response, which was PPP money. You know, the consumer was pretty flush with cash, and so there was an overall spending of durable goods. So I talk to customers, and they sell lawnmowers and feed and hardware, right? Everybody renovated their houses, bought a tractor, bought a four-wheeler, and fed more animals. And so certainly there was that kind of spending. Durable goods spending has come back to a normal trend from 2019. So they got that kind of, but consumer spending is still up. So I would tell you, you've got. I'll take the equine space. You've got a piece of the market that's always been economy. They're always going to be economy. It doesn't matter if, you know, that's what they are, and that's fine. And then you've got a piece of the market that's, I'll call it mid-tier, that wants to feed a good feed and do a lot of supplementation. And then you've got kind of the premium market, right? We don't find yet that there's been a lot of band changes from those bands. Certainly consumers are starting to pay attention to what they spend. But that's where, you know, DAC products should be product. Our value proposition is you can actually feed less feed, right? If you feed 4 pounds of a $20 feed, or you feed 10 pounds of a $14 feed,
the $20 feed is cheaper. And so as we educate the consumers, and if you feed the right supplements and you can feed less feed and use the pasture better, that education is starting to resonate again with consumers. But I think you've got the people that care about their horses and their performance horses, or they're part of the family. They're still going to feed good products. And then people that haven't been, I would say, haven't been educated on the benefits of that, or their horses are going to be on an economic feed, we're probably not going to change that either. I would say really pandemic is kind of behind us what we're seeing. The horse numbers, based on all the research, I don't know if you guys probably do it too, it's pretty steady. You've got a market that's, I had 4 horses, I'm down to 3 because I don't want to feed that 4th horse, but then at the same time you've got some newer, next generations coming into horse ownership. So it's actually keeping those numbers relatively flat. So I think it's a healthy market. There's not a significant increase in horses that are coming to market, but certainly there's not a reduction either, unless you're on the racetracks. In racing, they're paying more for better horses and having fewer horses in the barns just because the purses aren't quite as big as some of the tier 2 and tier 3 tracks. So does that answer your question?
Perfect. We saw an initial spike in new horse ownership. The first 8 months of the pandemic, it spiked and then it went flat again. So the good news is what we've found is that spike has been a retention. So it hasn't been up and then back down in total horse numbers. Small gain.
Any other questions at this time? We will have multiple opportunities throughout the day for more questions, so think on those. Also, keep those color-coded papers. We will have an area back there when you leave to put all those into, and we do most definitely take value in those at the end.
RJ, can I make one other comment on that question? So one of the things that we found is I'm really excited about, and I'll plug one of your product lines, the DAC Deer, because that is everything that we've seen, that is a recession-proof sale. So people may stop spending money on going out to eat, they may stop spending money on travel, they may stop spending money on lawnmowers, but they're going to feed their deer. And it's not just the people who are going to hunt them, it's the people that are going to put them in the backyard and watch them, it's the people that are managing properties. And so actually, if we start to see an issue in the economy, which I'm not an economist, I'm not going to wax ineloquently on that, but I think RJ and the DAC team are being really wise in offering those types of products because it has a counter-cyclical sales approach that at least we've seen in our business. And we're investing in it. I'm really glad to see DAC also investing in giving you those products.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. And like I said, we'll have some more questions here available time.